The Daily Shocker exclusive. George, saint or scammer? Legendary hero sacked, monstrous revelations.
He isn't a saint anymore. You're scamming me. De-sainted? Uncanonized? No more St. George of Merry England. What happens to a country when its patron saint is sacked? England wasn't exactly merry when George was looking after it. Things might actually improve.
Oh, may I have your own take on this news?
Speaking for myself, since you kindly ask, I couldn't be more pleased. Always knew he was a fraud. Saintly? I don't think so. The great battle? All a long time ago.
Our readers are longing to know your story. The Dragon's take on events, exclusive to True Truth magazine.
No.
No? But think of your public. All our readers out there longing to meet you.
Meet me?
Of course. Meet you, the dragon.
Please, just go away and leave me in peace. Now.
No.
No?
Really, I can't.
Can't?
They said you'd probably do that. Raw. But it doesn't make any difference. I'm staying until you...
Until I...
Until you talk.
Talk? All right, if I must. I was living quietly in a cave. Don't believe all those lies they call legends. Fire-breathing, marauding, glutting on herds of cattle. For a start, I'm vegan. I will hold up my claws for the occasional wheat field and apple orchard, but only 3 or 4 times a year. Not a great price, considering the benefits to the city.
Oh?
Yes, benefits. They don't tell you I kept the city safe. No one could come within 5 miles unless they paid for official protection and escort. I was a one-drag job creation scheme. Drag Force, DFX for short, recruited the toughest young athletes, training, certificate, smart uniform, secure well-paid employment, sociable hours, high-status occupation. The fees filled the city bank vaults. Everyone prospered. Then there were the undercover freelance protectors, slipping incomers past me to avoid the city tolls and charging 2 and 3 times the official fees for the thrill of feeling intrepid. They were idolized as brave warriors and starred in celebrity Draco dueling tournaments. Painted armor versus cardboard drags on wheels.
I see.
But nothing's perfect. I got greedy, I admit. Lonely. I used to enjoy living alone. I would have liked to mate. There are so few of us now. But although I learned to be content with what I had and not yearn for the impossible, it gradually dawned on me that I needed a companion. Someone to talk to, watch the sunset with, help me groom and polish my scales, crisp up my crest, scratch the itch between my wings. A gentle arm around my neck. I knew there was no chance of a drag friend. I needed a human. But the more I thought about it, the sadder I felt. Self-pity? Certainly not. You never wished for company. Isolation overwhelmed me until my fires were extinguished by tears. Luscious orchards and glowing fields might as well been barren dust bowls. I lost weight, shed scales, crest sagged. I wanted only to sleep. Word got about. Rumors of my death were exaggerated, but not much. The city was in despair. No one paid for protection from me anymore. DFX was disbanded. There was no alternative employment. Leisure centres and security forces were already overstaffed. You know how in those stories they send out some poor young lad to trick the evil monster, rescue the city and marry the king's daughter? The ones where no one actually asked the king's daughter what she feels about being sacrificed to a drag or a shoemaker or accountant or whatever, depending on who wins. Tea?
Don't mind if I do.
Well, some bright spark comes up with the idea that the evil monster, that would be me, was destroying the city by not marauding, fire-breathing and what all. In which case, I should be A, tricked, B, bribed. Enter George, one of the freelance protectors, with me being hors de combat, as you might say. He had no one to protect, aka scam, and no income. So this future so-called saint cut a deal with the city. Biscuit? I'm lying in the sun, dreaming of having a friend, when up he wanders. I will say he was nicely spoken. Bit of an accent, immigrant from farther east. "Now, old thing," he says. I'd have singed his whiskers for that piece of cheek, but I couldn't be bothered. "Excuse me for disturbing you, but we need to talk." He was quite pleasant for a human, so I let him go on. He explains about the city and so on, and I'm weeping. I hadn't meant any harm. All I wanted was a friend. Like the little girl who used to creep out and chat to me long ago. George seems to think he's struck a useful note playing on my sympathy. Next thing he's telling me about his boyhood and his widowed mother somewhere in the Levant. He's left her with a house full of children to make his fortune in the wide world, sends back his earnings, lives rough, no prospect of love, marriage. I'm howling with all that misery. I alone am responsible for all the sufferings of the city, and even worse, for preventing the birth of countless future gallant and graceful Georgelets. In total collapse, I tell him the truth. One companion to live with me, then I'll relight my fire, eat apples and wheat, roar at sunset, parade the city boundaries. Order and prosperity will be restored. All will be well. Next day, George returned from the city. No king's daughters available. Who said anything about royal progeny? But a very nice girl was happy to be sacrificed to me. Sacrificed! If I fulfilled a few easy conditions. The city wanted its pound of flesh. Not literally, but a spectacle to attract tourists, souvenirs, marketing opportunities to recoup revenue lost with what was insensitively described as my sulk. If I returned to work, a companion could live with me. Not in the cave, but in an adjoining commodious cottage that would be provided, fully furnished to her taste with state-of-the-art equipment and maintenance, plus income for life. There was one other condition. Read this.
Oh. Journal of Heroic Times, volume 365, number 52. As the mystery hero rode his milk-white steed to the very brink of the dreadful den, the tethered maiden, terrified yet tranquil, gazed in adoring anticipation while her saviour summoned the menacing monster. The dire drag, bellowing in fury from the depths of his fetid lair, emitted a billow of sulphurous flame. The ensuing duel twixt valiant knight and craven beast can but be imagined.
Load of nonsense. My cave was never fetid. I'm a homemaker. I'd have liked to be a mother. Failing that, protecting the city satisfies my need to be useful. But that's the story. George fought the drag, rescued the princess, and received a hefty reward and expenses paid trip to the next continent. The sainting bit came later, heaven knows why. Here.
Oh. Saintly news. XX1111V. Peerless drag slayer George, celebrated city saviour and gallant princess rescuer, raised at last to rightful celestial status. Elected to ranks of warrior saints, led by mighty Archangel Michael. St. George's banner, red cross on white ground, proclaims his strength, fidelity, purity and virtue.
I shouldn't be so hard on him. He did arrange for my dear friend to live with me. Let her speak for herself while I have a doze. Your turn, love. Tell the reporter about the virgin sacrifice stuff.
The virgin part was true enough, but sacrifice? When I heard they needed a girl for the starring role as King's daughter, I was first in the audition queue, and last. But what was not to like? Centre stage, one performance only, keep the dress and jewels, nice pictures and a romantic story to be remembered by. Live in luxury for the rest of your life. Huh. Just one itch. The rest of that life would be in solitary proximity to a dragon. But it was perfect for me. Fresh air, freedom, good food, job for life, being useful, being wanted, even perhaps loved. And I had a secret. So I got the part and signed the contract. They moved me into this palacey pad, gave me a complete makeover, hair, skin, even me toenails. Can you believe? The clothes, I had to walk a bit mincing and talk posh. The mayor makes a pompous announcement. The dragon will return to active service in return for a virgin sacrifice, lest it should commence to ravish the heretofore unravished countryside beyond the city borders. Cleolinda has courageously offered herself to save the city and its neighbours. Cleolinda? Apparently my own name wasn't glamorous enough.
Outrageous.
Who will volunteer to save this beauteous damsel in distress?
Oh.
Well, before anyone can beat him to it, up pops George. To be honest, there wasn't any competition, which was just as well. George pretends he's being spontaneous, lays his sword at my feet, and swears to rescue me or die in the attempt. As a reward, he asks only to claim me as his bride. I flutter my eyelashes and entreat him to be careful. Next day, I'm taken to that little hollow over there, tied to a stake and left alone. So, I'm stuck on this pole, and Dragon potters out and peers at me.
I didn't peer
You
at you.
did so, Pia. Then she remembers and puffs a bit, and they all squeal. And so she puffs more, and they shriek louder. Then she comes out behind a great sheet of fire and smoke, and I screamed, to stop myself from laughing, and I call for help as instructed. Right on cue, up canters good old George on a good old nag. And pulls out a sword and waves it about. Then he calls to me, "Fair maiden, fear not." But it comes out, it comes out as, "Fear maiden, fear not," and I nearly wet myself giggling, which is a very Princess Cleolinda-ly, and my coronet nearly falls off my head. Oh, and he's meant to kneel at my feet, but his shoe gets tangled in the stirrup and he can't get off the horse. So Dragon puffs out a cloud of smoke.
Quick thinking, I thought.
Oh, yeah, don't show off, love. When the fog clears, there's dear old Dragon lying at George's feet with his sword sticking out of her.
Except that it's planted in the ground between my paws.
So George pulls the sword out and slices through my bonds. The crowd cheers. Hooray! He makes a nice little speech about sparing the monster's life because although he's a fully paid up knight, he's taken a vow not to kill. Then he sweeps me off my feet and leaps onto the war horse with me in his arms. Well, in theory, I'd rather not revisit what actually happened, even in words. But the spectators saw what they were meant to see. He had to be remembered as the mysterious hero disappearing with his reward, the submissive heroine. The end. Crisis, danger, drama, resolution. Comedy or tragedy, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow, a new crisis, new excitement, new story, news.
Indeed, my love.
So, the city had to be sure that he disappeared and never, ever reappeared with his dangerous secret. And I had to be returned to the dragon to ensure that she'd keep her part of the bargain. 6 fit former DFX guards took George and me to a safe house where we had an enormous feast and slept the clock round. Next morning we thanked each other for the adventure and parted forever. And a young man accompanied me here, home. I've never told you, love, but he offered to fight you for me. He still thought I was a virgin sacrifice doomed to spend the rest of my life with a monster. I still regret not being able to explain, but, well, he had to think I was really giving up my freedom on behalf of the city. Oh, he was a very courteous, gentle knight.
My dear. But explain to the reporter. We owe her the truth after her patience.
The truth? The truth. The truth is that I'd loved Dragon since I was a lonely child. I used to creep out of the city and sit with her whenever I could. She was so kind and affectionate. When I grew up, I became trapped. You don't need to know how or why. Then the chance came to escape and to live with my dear companion. Was that a sacrifice? Yes, if sacrifice means dedicating yourself to the person you most love.
So, now you have the true story. Not one of those daft legends about marauding monsters and gallant heroes. Just an everyday tale of loneliness, love, and creative problem-solving.
Thank you. Very grateful. Have you thought of a title for the interview? How about The Dragon's Tale, perhaps? Well, I'm open to ideas, or...
Dragon!
Cleolinda?
And George.